all of you for coming. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces, Bill's former colleagues and peers. It's such an honor to have all of you guys here. And it's also really great to see some new faces this year, so thank you everyone for coming. We live in town, and I'm going to not take a lot of time up here because we have a very fulsome program, but we're lucky enough to live in South Bend. I'm an attorney from Lippert, and I think there's maybe not a week that goes by that we don't run into someone who knew Bill and has a story about Bill. He defended them. Those are the interesting ones. Or someone worked with him, the judges, the bailiffs, everyone at the courthouse. It's just so nice for people who make pizza at Barnaby's to talk about how much they love him. So we love that because our kids get to hear about that. I love this program because it's just another enduring part of his legacy. So I just want to thank some people who have put a lot of effort into this program. First, Amy McGuire. I don't think she's in here, but thank you for all of her efforts that go into this program every 2 years. We really appreciate it. Joe Bolingham, could not have done this without you with my kids' soccer schedules. You put so much effort, and we really appreciate you taking over the helm this program. It's been wonderful. And then finally, Tom Sacco and your family. Thank you so much for starting this. It means a lot on behalf of Michael and Kevin and Brian and Mary Jane. The fact that we're almost a decade out from losing Bill, but we are still having this program and still talking about him means a lot to us. So thank you very much for initiating this and all of your efforts in endowing this program. We hope it's something that will continue forever. So on that note, we have a gift for your family and for Joyce and Amy. And if you would like to come up, if you have any comments, which I am guessing you do.
This is Sacco and whoever. I'll hold these for.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This was the labor of love for me and other folks that started this program some years ago. I knew Bill as a friend, as a professional acquaintance, and really respected everything that he did, both in the courtroom and outside the courtroom. We played softball together forever. Our families were close, and I'm very thankful that we've been able to continue, in some respect, Bill's legacy, which is just a spectacular legacy. And I would encourage all of you young lawyers to try to emulate Bill in what Bill represented both in the courtroom and outside the courtroom, because he's the gold standard for what this program is all about, professionalism and civility. So thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our first speaker. For those of you who were lucky enough to spend time with Bill, one of the best things that you could do was make him actually really laugh, like his belly laugh. It usually happened when I made fun of Brian. No offense, honey. But
That was easy.
I remember one night where he and Dick Nussbaum, we were at a charity event, not his favorite thing to do always. And you guys sat at that table and laughed, and I've talked about it with Brian many times. So I'd like to introduce Dick Nussbaum. He's going to give a personal reflection on Bill. Dick is a former Notre Dame graduate, a Notre Dame law graduate from 1977. He's currently a partner at Sacco, Nussbaum, Nesbitt, and Kaczmarek. He was previously a South Bend city attorney, general counsel to the lieutenant governor, special counsel to the governor, general counsel to the Midwest League of Minor League Baseball, a Notre Dame baseball player, and fell into law as a backup to baseball. So, Dick.
Thank you. I got to correct Kelly on one thing. The backup portion of being a lawyer was kind of a decision made by 30 major league teams. I think I had it to go in that direction. But thank you very much, Kelly and Brian and Joe Fulenkamp. I do have to recognize PJ sitting next to my wife, Bernie Pat. They're lifelong friends. And I'm going to do my best to get through this without embarrassing myself. So Joe Fulenkamp said to me that Kelly had asked for me to do this, and I can't think of a bigger compliment. He also said to me, I said, how long, Joe? He said, take as long as you want. I said, you don't want me to take as long as I want, because I could go the whole 2 hours and talk about Bill Stanley. But I have two goals here to try to get through this as quickly as I can. That's famous lawyer lie. I'm going to get through this as quickly as I can. Number one is to give you all perspective of 38 years of friendship with Bill Stanley. And secondly, to try to connect up a little bit Bill's life with and why this is called the William P. Stanley Seminar on Professionalism and Civility. So I met Bill pretty early on in my career here. He had been practicing for 5 years when I met Bill, which at that time was a long time to be practicing. As the years went along, it wasn't so long. But Bill was with a gang of other lawyers. They all lived at the Park Jefferson Apartments, which at that time was before it caught on fire 16 times during the course of history. But it was the place to live at that time. Mike Barnes, Jack Kreiser, and there were other non-lawyers. And I think the only reason I got into that gang was two reasons. One, my wife knew PJ, and so I was able to. We were able to get into that group. And secondly, Tom mentioned and Kelly mentioned softball. I interviewed with Barnes and Thornburg. It wasn't Barnes and Thornburg. Steve Seal did my interview. And it became pretty clear about halfway through the interview this was going nowhere until he found out I was a Notre Dame baseball player. So we talked the rest about that, and he asked me to join the PAs, which, so I was good enough to make the PAs, wasn't good enough to make the roster. So that was really, there were two areas where I got to know Bill really well. And I think one was on the softball side. And we had a really good team. It's called the PAs, prosecuting attorneys. Probably very few people were prosecuting attorneys at the time. I was one of them. But Mike Barnes started the team. Tom was on the team. We had Tony Zappia, who was probably he was a teammate of mine at Notre Dame, but he was a legendary softball player. He could put the ball wherever he wanted. We had a number of other individuals, but Bill was our catcher. And that was an interesting position for him. Bill was a great athlete, and he was a graduate of Dayton. I know he played baseball in high school, and I might have even played it some in college. But Bill was the catcher, and I think the reason he chose that position was because it was the shortest distance between our bench and the field. I was out in center field. I was having to run in all the way, and Bill just took the catcher's position. So when I first met Bill, he was practicing with Bob Steffen. And there are some individuals here, I can see them smiling, that knew Bob Steffen. And Bill figured out pretty quickly that this wasn't a great match. Although Bob did a lot of criminal work, and Bill started criminal work, Bill decided to go out on his own, and he opened an office. And in his office, there were two other lawyers that he worked with, Mike Scopelidis and Dave Keckley. So there was Bob Steffen on the one end of the continuum, and there's Mike Scopelidis and Dave Keckley on the other. Very early in my career, as I said, I was a prosecuting attorney. I also did a lot of collection work. So I was at the courthouse every day, and I got a chance to see Bill every day. Bill represented a lot of people that needed a lot of help. And no one worked harder than Bill. No one beat Bill Stanley to the courthouse. I think he opened it up. But Bill would get there. He'd have all his files in order. You know, at that time, we'd have to run around trying to make sure we were on time for Judge Montgomery, Judge Ozinski, Judge Walton, Judge Kopech. And if you weren't on time for one of those judges, there was, you know what to pay. But Bill was always on time. I had a number of cases with Bill. And I don't know that we ever tried a case against each other. Bill was one of those guys that knew what he could get out of the case. And so there were, a lot of these were resolved in a way that there was a plea agreement or whatever. And one thing about Bill was during the plea agreement colloquy between the judge and the defendant, you could tell that Bill spent time with the defendant, because many times other lawyers had not spent as much time and you'd have a problem. But Bill was incredible in terms of how he carried himself in the courtroom, the respect that the judges had for him, the respect that the clerks had for him, the respect that everyone in the courthouse had for him. And he earned that. He earned that by the way he worked, the way he treated other people. And I watched that, okay? And I learned from Bill a great deal. The other thing that people might not know so much about is all of the Notre Dame football coaches had Bill on their speed dials. And I will tell you that there were probably many, many games that the difference was Bill Stanley in those games. He had the players who might have gone off the path a little bit. He was able to take care of them so that they could continue on. As I mentioned, we played softball together, and you know, you learn a lot about someone when you play a sport. You know, there's a lot of downtime in baseball and softball. And so I would sit on the bench next to Bill, and we talked a lot, we laughed a lot. Bill went to Niles High School in Chicago. It's a Catholic school, it's a Holy Cross school. And he played with Craig Lozinski. And I'm sure there's some baseball fans in here that knew who Craig Lozinski was, but Craig Lozinski was the biggest man on the face of the earth when he was playing baseball. He was just a huge guy, and would hit balls. And Bill would describe how far the balls would go in high school. And I just had a great time with him. Bill, as a baseball player, was a softball player, was the same as he was in the courtroom. Very quiet, very unassuming, but he knew everything that was going on. As catcher, he would make sure that we all knew how many outs and what to do with the ball if it came to us. He was a leader. He was a leader in baseball and softball, and he was a leader in the courtroom. When I went to law school at Notre Dame, our dean was Dean Link, Dave Link. Dave was a really interesting guy. He was a tax lawyer. You never know it, but he was an excellent tax lawyer, practiced in Chicago. And why he gave that up to come and be the dean of law school, I'll never know, but I'm glad he did. But he taught a jurisprudence course that we all had to take. We had to take 2 jurisprudence courses in law school, and I took one from him, and he taught us something that I think about every day, and I think Bill probably, as much as anyone else, lived up to this. And what he taught us to be as lawyers is healers. Lawyer is healer. And some people, when I tell them that, they look at me like I'm nuts, because that's probably not the first thing that pops into your mind, healer, when you think about a lawyer. And what Bill did so well was put himself in a situation, or found himself in a situation where people really needed his help, and he could pour gasoline on the fire, or he could put the fire out. And Bill knew how to put the fire out. And I think that his day in and day out healing for his friends, for his family, for his clients is the hallmark, and I think you could not have established. And Tom, I thank you very much for, it's the 4th biennial, so that's 8 years, right? 4 times 2. Bill, I think he's up in heaven right now, healing, and I'm sure he's smiling. The last thing I want to just say about Bill is he was a terrific family guy. He was a great husband. He was a great father. Very proud of his children. I see a lot of Bill and Brian. Same laugh, Brian. And he was always there. He was always there for his kids. Our kids, Mary Pat and I, our kids are about the same age as Bill and PJ's. And so we saw these kids. I saw you when you were, I don't know whether you were on the dirt pile with Danny hitting dirty during the softball games. You probably were, but you know, he just was a great, he was a great father. He was a great husband. He was a great friend. And he was a great grandpa. We kind of lost Bill soon after his grandkids were starting to participate in Little League and all those kinds of things. And that's where I would see Bill most of all. And I really treasured those times. He's a great friend. And we all could do really well for following his lead. So thank you very much. No way again.
Thank you so much, Dick. That was amazing. Our next presentation, I'm going to introduce Marcus Barney. He is a current student in the program that connects South Bend students with legal careers. He is a senior at Adams High School, a member of the Adams High School mock trial team, a drum major for the Adams High School marching band, the third year in a row making the state finals, and homecoming king at Adams. So very impressive. Also presenting is Magistrate Judge Andre Gamage. He's the current Magistrate Judge of the St. Joseph Circuit Court, a 1988 grad of Bellevue Law School. And I do have to use my notes because you guys all have too many accolades, so apologies. He was previously a deputy prosecutor with the St. Joseph County Prosecutor's Office, St. Joseph County Public Defender's Office, a staff attorney with the South Bend Human Rights Department, an administrative law judge of the South Bend Department Code of Enforcement, served on the Indiana Domestic Relations Committee, Indiana Judicial Education Committee, faculty of the National Judicial College on Domestic Violence, an adjunct professor at Notre Dame, and a 2024 inductee to the South Bend Community Hall of Fame. Also presenting is Tim Mayer. He is a partner at Barnes & Thornburg, an adjunct professor at Notre Dame, previously with trial advocacy and currently in the expungement clinic. 1990 Notre Dame law grad. Previously worked at Rowe & Rowe and Hewlett and Calmaris Law Firm. His current practice at Barnes & Thornburg includes school issues, and he served as Culver Academy's outside counsel for more than 20 years. And aviation law, and I was specifically told to include this, that Tim's interest in aviation law stems from his time at Joe's International Airport Bar, where he worked as a bouncer during his undergrad years at Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa. And finally, joining this group is Amy Kintz. She's the senior marketing manager at Barnes & Thornburg. She works in marketing and community engagement in South Bend, Elkhart, and Fort Wayne offices, and she also oversees Columbus, Atlanta, Nashville, and the Minneapolis offices. Prior to B&T, she was at Brady and Title for 16 years. She is a graduate of IU, serves on the board of Ronald McDonald House, leadership for South Bend, the Fund Development Committee for Cultivate, and she started B&T's food truck philanthropy program, summer food trucks outside, and she also, we have feisty freshman daughters on the varsity St. Joe soccer team together. So welcome, Amy.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, the story that Dick told about Bill at the court, he's right. Bill was first. I was second. I was second for about 20 years. I could never be first, but I sat next to Bill, just he and I, and that's really how I got to know the family. He would, as a mature family person, he would listen to me kind of lose my mind about my own kids and get a chuckle out of it and talk to the family about it. But he was a consummate professional. He really was at all times. And most importantly, Bill was a good person. And that's really important. And so one of the reasons why we're here today is to try to help you and try to help the legal community. We want to, as a legal community, grow the community, and that's what good people do. My job leading off is to be able to tell you a little bit about how we work together and how this collaboration came together. That collaboration started probably in 2019, 2020, when we started doing some expungements here in St. Joseph County. I think we ended up doing about 1,500 over a period of a couple of years. And through that process, it was extremely important to have great partners. Barnes & Thornburg was that partner. Anything you do, you need great partners. You need to find out who you need and who helps make things go. So we developed a relationship that way, and specifically it was Amy and Tim that were working with me on the thousands of people that we dealt with getting expungements. One day Tim called and he said, look, we're trying to grow our community at Barnes & Thornburg. We really want to grow our community. We want to be a larger part of the community. We want those people that live in this community to be a part of Barnes & Thornburg. And they had an opening there, and I didn't know anyone who could fill the position, but I said, Tim, rather than us looking for one person here or there, let's try to create a pipeline. Let's try to get more people in this community to be able to understand the legal community, and therefore we can have a number of people that we might be able to choose from and that other firms and people in the legal community might be able to choose from. So that's what we did. And you need people. You need to know who those partners are. So I think one of the best things that you can do in trying to get something accomplished is trying to figure out who it is you need to be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. The other thing I think is extremely important is trying to make it a winning situation for everyone. Not just me winning, not just you winning, but between the two, I can. But in any event, make it a situation where everyone can win. I call the South Bend Community School Corporation. I'm a product of South Bend Community School Corporation. My kids are products of the South Bend Community School Corporation. And I thought they needed help. I thought they deserved help. Not just needed, deserved. Winning situation. Look, we've got an initiative here. Law firm is willing to help lead, guide some kids. Who at the school corporation would say no to that? No one. Contacted the head of the teacher for the criminal justice program. She says, of course, that would be great. Our kids would love that. Of course they would. Winning situation. Barnes & Thornburg said, this is what we want to do, and they were committed to it. So they weren't just words, it was action. They said, this is what we want to do. So we talked, and school corporation was on board. They were going to get the kids. They got kids lined up. And when I tell you they got kids lined up, this is not something the kids have to do. Every single student that we've had has been 100% committed at all times. So we got the kids. School corporation provided transportation. Barnes & Thornburg said, we will provide the location, which is their office. One of the things we thought about, one of the things that I thought about is being from the community that a lot of the students were coming from, they're probably going to need a little bit more you haven't been in an office building in downtown South Bend or anywhere else for that matter, what do you wear? What do you wear? Sergeant Thornburg said, we'll take care of that. Khaki pants and a polo with guess what on the lapel? Sergeant Thornburg. Mark it. Win, right? To top it off, they bought a Air Jordans. White Air Jordans for all the students. So that was, they were winning, the school corporation was winning, the kids were winning, the entire community was winning, and has been winning, and continues to win. DeMarcus is a shining example of the things that we've done. He's going to talk to you some today. I talked to you about the things that I did on my end to be able to make this work. Most of it was willingness, being intentional about what it is that you want to do, making a sacrifice. Sacrifice from the standpoint of, as we sit here today and throughout this, I want you to think about one thing. As you sit here, you might be thinking, I can't do this because of, and I can't do it because of, and I don't have time, and I don't have the money. Try thinking a little bit different. Instead of thinking about why you can't, figure out how you can. Barnes and Thornburg did. Tim was going to tell us how that happened.
Right, so to the surprise of absolutely nobody here, the magistrate seriously undersold his contribution. We were sitting, I think we were standing outside on the front stoop of Sweet Home Church and started having this discussion about, you know, I had met with a mentee of the magistrate's who was on her way to law school, and we were just talking about different things. And then I find myself out on the stoop of the church during one of our expungement events. And I said, you know, she was great. You know, do you have any other students like that we could talk to? And he said no, and we started talking about, you know, the difficulty we've been having in bringing people in. And he said, well, if you wait till they're in law school, maybe that's too late. Maybe we need to start talking to people before they get to law school and have other ideas. And so we started 4 years ago with 4 unbelievably brave young ladies from the South Bend School Corps, who, when we asked at our first meeting, so what were you told? And what do you expect? And, why are you here? Their answer to each of those questions was, we don't know. I mean, somebody said, these people are going to do this, and it was a very, there was no playbook, there was no real defined plan. We were trying to figure out what we could do to help humanize our profession to people who had expressed at least a modest interest in maybe pursuing it. And so I'm proud of the work that we've done, but it would be terribly remiss of me not to acknowledge the help that we've gotten from a number of people, some of whom are in this room. I mean, we spent yesterday in Judge Lichty's courtroom with 14 kids who we trooped over there, who watched him conduct court, and then got a chance to talk to him and the AUSA who was there for the hearing, to meet with the clerks and the staff. We meet with the U.S. Attorney's Office, we meet with the local prosecutors, we meet with state court judges, federal magistrates. I mean, anybody who we've asked has always said yes. And so it is to the great credit of those people who've helped us do this to put these kids in front of people who do things that they have some passing knowledge or understanding of, and to humanize what they do and allow them to ask questions of these people. And hopefully DeMarcus is taking these clues as to how he's going to explain how great this is later. That brings what happens here that these kids have not been exposed to, and most of whom don't even know what we do. I frequently ask them, how many times have you driven past this building without knowing, having any idea, and everybody says, since it's been here. And the other thing that I would like to share before I hand it off to Amy is, every year at the end, we do kind of an exit interview session. We talk to our kids about what they liked, what they think we could do better, which tends to be the longer portion of the meeting. And each of the past 4 years, somebody, at least one of the kids has said something along the lines of, it never occurred to me that I could have a job like this or do something like this, or that, or be a prosecutor or a defense lawyer, or even somebody who works in a law office. No one ever said anything like that to me. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, we had, I don't think I'm violating any confidences. We had one of our students who said, I'm really interested, but my dad's in prison, so I don't think I can get a job like this. And through no great planning of us, there was somebody else in the room who's a colleague of mine who said, don't worry about it. My dad has done time, and I'm here, so you can do that. And it's that sort of, it is knitting these people in more tightly with our community, which is what we're trying to do. Because I get being 18 and wanting to be anywhere other than where you grew up. But if you're wanting to leave is motivated in any small part by not understanding the opportunities that are here, then shame on us. And I think it's incumbent on us to stop that from happening. Because we can't sit here and wonder about why good people aren't sticking around if we're not doing anything to make that happen. And because I get preachy like this, the softer side of the equation would be Miss Amy Kins.
Thank you. I was really, really excited when Tim and Magistrate Damage approached me with this idea. I am a lifelong resident of South Bend. My parents were educators in the South Bend school system, and I was always taught to give back, and we have the opportunity to do that. I'm also very aware of the brain drain that occurs in our community, and I think it's so important to reach out to students when they're younger and they're still here to let them know that the opportunities do exist, and they don't have to leave the South Bend community. So again, I was very excited. I am the warm fuzzy aspect of this initiative. I really enjoy the students, and I really look at our program as an opportunity to kind of pull the curtain back on what it is we do every day, and to let them know that we're just humans too, right? We aren't all that intimidating, well, to be intimidating. But I want them to feel a part of something bigger. And I wanted them to take from the experience confidence and hope. And I think that they do that, and we've created a really great community. I think what I also love is because so many other people in the community, to mention Judge Lichty and Prosecutor Ken Cotter is very involved in our program as well. The students are also creating resources and referral system, and they're learning how to network, and they're learning how to ask questions, and they're exposed to things and people and experiences they wouldn't otherwise be exposed to. And I think it helps open their eyes a little bit to what's out there. Many of them have a very different perception of the legal field. You know, they think all lawyers are going into the courtroom and it's drama like, you know, Law and Order. But they're learning that there are all kinds of different roles in that industry. And maybe they don't want to necessarily be a lawyer. We have students in our class this year who want to work for the FBI, who want to be a U.S. Marshal, and they're getting exposure to all of that. But the beauty is that they were creating this referral system. As Tim mentioned, we started the first year with 4 girls. We kind of flew by the seat of our pants. They were incredibly brave. They didn't really know what they were getting into. We weren't exactly sure how this was going to shape up. I still talk to them. They are in college. 2 of them are pursuing degrees in criminology. They still reach out. They still touch base. We go beyond just giving them exposure to the legal system. We talk to them about professional presence, what it means to be a strong communicator, what it means to network. We talk to them about LinkedIn pages and social media. We're giving them all kinds of resources that are going to help them develop both in their, you know, hopefully their college career and then their professional career. And for those that go through our program who aren't going to go on to college, we are able to connect them with people in the community that can give them job opportunities. We lined up an internship with Kim Cotter with one of our first-year students, and she did a summer internship. And we're connecting our former students to each other as well. So not only are they connecting with us and connecting with leaders in the community, they also have each other to lean on. One of our first-year students is a junior at Howard University, and one of last year's students is a freshman. So I was able to take them to lunch last year and connect them, and they have each other to lean on, to talk to kind of push each other through it. I think we also give them a very different perception of the industry and what really takes place, right? Like I said, they have a perception that everyone goes to trial and it's drama, and they realize that there are other things that happen. Not every attorney goes to trial, not everyone goes to the courthouse. Some deal with the environment, some deal with healthcare. So there's lots of opportunity depending on what their passions are. And I'm really, really excited about the crew that we have this year. They're curious and they're inquisitive. We started with 4 kids. We have 14 students in our program this year. And they bring so much to us, I think. I think I've become a better person getting to know these kids and getting to watch their enthusiasm for what we do every day that we might take for granted. So on that note, again, I'd like to introduce DeMarcus, who is part of our program. Would you like to share your experience, Marcus?
Yeah, so I just want to say hi, everyone. Again, my name is DeMarcus. And really, they are truly they're kind of being humble about the program. Because honestly, when they had asked me to talk or talk to you guys, I was kind of scared about it, because thinking about it and thinking about like talking in front of a bunch of different lawyers and you know, really important people, it's kind of scary. Yesterday we went to a federal change of plea hearing, and with Judge Lakeby sitting there in the back, we got to ask different questions and stuff like that. And even then, I was kind of nervous to talk to these people and ask questions, and I was kind of being quiet. And then Ms. Kentz reminded me, just be yourself, like be open, be inquisitive, and kind of be a critical thinker. And it's kind of like an opportunity not only for myself, but speaking for my classmates here, to be a part of something more than yourself and kind of learn about things that you might have not known before. Because I would have never imagined speaking in front of you today, and it's kind of nice to see that you're not just like what you see on TV, like you're rushing in and in suits and you're like gal warriors, and it's kind of nice to see like you're human too, and like you said, that you have some work behind yourself. So I think that she's being, really humble about that, but I really appreciate it.
DeMarcus, you've had an opportunity to talk to some of your fellow students also. Can you kind of expand a little bit on what their thoughts, what they shared with you about being in this program?
Yeah, so for a lot of the students, a part of the program that he's referring to is the CTE criminal justice program. So we all come from different schools and different backgrounds. So we all have coming from different schools. I come from Adams and some people come from Washington. And then we all kind of meet up at Barnes and we kind of get to learn about different things. So some of us are interested in other branches of criminal justice, but we all kind of get the experience of we get to be together and kind of, talk about how the criminal justice system kind of works for us and how we've experienced it so far. And then some of the other students have said to me yeah, you're interested. Yesterday when we were in court, I was like, man, I really wish I would have looked up that code, that statute that he was talking about before, because I know I've heard it somewhere else. I really wish I could have talked to him about it. And then one of my other classmates was like, I would have never thought to do that. That doesn't interest me. And I'm just like, well, I mean, I love the codes. You love the martial stuff. And
DeMarcus, did you have, what was your apprehension, if you had any, or even if you had some apprehension that you are aware of as far as the other students about coming there, going to the building, what was it going to be like? Did you have any apprehension or preconceived notions of what you thought it was going to be?
I thought, for me at least, I thought it was going to be a big imposter syndrome type feeling, being around different people that, usually when I'm going somewhere, I want to be the smartest in the room. So being around a bunch of people that are smarter than me, have have already learned these kind of critical thinking or kind of these intellectual skills that I'm still trying to develop. It was scary. It's I'm going into these rooms and it's just I'm seeing all these people that are inquisitive, asking me questions that I might not know the answer to, and I'm just next time I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna put it in this pen. I'm gonna put it in this book, and I'm gonna make sure I know the answers to those questions because I'm gonna make sure I'm on my toes at all times.
So I know you've been in the program. I think we started in September, and we do this one Wednesday, the second Wednesday of every month. But you've been to several classes. You have an idea of kind of where we're going. Do you have any thoughts about what has happened thus far and what will happen over the next few months, how that will help you going forward?
I definitely think so far it's been helpful. I believe that we've done 2 or 3 different outings, and all of them have been to courthouses and stuff like that. And a big dream of mine has always been to be a lawyer or I want to be a judge and stuff like that. But it's not all what I see. Ms. Kent said that sometimes you think of lawyers as what you see in TV. I personally like Suits. So I always imagine myself as a Harvey Specter, and I was I'm gonna be just like Mike Ross, and I'm gonna know everything, and I'm gonna have an eidetic memory. It's gonna be perfect. But you get there, and you're just hey, I'm in front of a federal judge right now. I need to make sure I'm asking questions that are worthwhile. Am I actually learning something? So going into these different rooms and being in this program, it's just I get to experience true education, and it's really nice.
We're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions also, but I do want to share something that I saw yesterday that really struck me. You heard that we were in Judge Lickey's courtroom yesterday. And again, we got these 14 students, and when I say they're dialed in, I mean they are dialed in. I mean they are, and one of the reasons why I'm saying this is because, those of us who are in kind of the get off my lawn mentality, these young kids today, but the students are completely dialed in. As a matter of fact, we had this one student last term, and she had her phone out, and we don't do that. We tell the people, hey, look, I think both Tim and I think got aggressive about that. Like, we make a lot of money, don't waste our time by not paying attention. And so one of the students had her phone out, and she's doing something. This hadn't happened, I don't think it's happened since we've been there. Someone was talking, we were at Barnes Thornburg. She's texting, as far as I know. As we move closer to the end of this person talking, the person who was leading the discussion, the student said, "Could you please slow down? I'm typing everything that you say." On my phone, on the chat. Yeah, she was typing everything. She said, "Well, you know, I forgot my pen and paper to take notes, so I'm typing everything down." But the other thing I was going to say is we were in Judge Lippy's courtroom now. Remember, these students are seniors, and those of us who obviously kind of lived our whole careers in courtrooms the courtroom is a revered place. Especially, I'd never been on the other side of the bench. Well, these students, Judge Lippy said, "Hey, anybody want to come up here on the federal bench, right?" And so they all ran. They all ran to the federal bench like it was a picnic. And they took a picture with Judge Lichty, and they said, "Hey, you know, can I get a gavel?" You know, somebody had me found a gavel, and they took posing pictures. And then after they took the pictures, while some of them were taking pictures, Judge Lichty was standing to my left, and one of the students just sat up to Judge Lichty and started talking to him, like he's just anybody off the street, right? I was kind of listening, like, "Hey, so what about those books up there? You know, what do you do?" And to me, it showed something too. It showed how confident this young man was, or how naive he was. If you're talking to a federal judge, you don't just walk up to him and start talking to him, right? But he was standing there talking to Judge Lichty and asking questions. I could kind of hear him barely, but I could hear that he was asking him some legitimate questions about court, about what he did, and those kind of things. So the students have been, they've been outstanding, 100% down in. And I wanted to ask Amy, because she is the warm and fuzzy person, so they talked to her. And so what are some of the things that they shared with you?
Sure. Well, we feed them lunch when they come. They love lunch. They love lunch because...
I do love lunch.
Try and have their favorite foods there. But what I love about that time is we get to catch up with them. We get to learn about them. We've talked family dynamics, we've talked school, we've talked exams, we've talked prom dresses. You know, you really get to know these kids and create this sense of community, which I think they have all really, really enjoyed. We give them an opportunity to share feedback that helps shape this program. I think it gets better year after year. Like I said, the first year, 4 girls kind of flew by the seat of our pants. It was good, but they offered a lot of really great feedback, and I think giving them that feeling of empowerment to say, "Hey, this is really great, but here's what we think might make it a little bit better." Much to this class's chagrin, last year's class and the year before said, "You need to assign homework." So
the homework's not that bad.
But what we have found is the homework really encourages these students to do a little deeper dive before each program day. So the questions are usually around what our program day topic is going to be, or the field trip. And so what I love is they come back and they're like, "We didn't know this, we didn't know that, we had no idea." So it like Marcus said, it's learning. It's really hands-on learning and knowledge and experience that they wouldn't otherwise get. There's only so much they can learn in the classroom. And so the people that are involved in our program and all the leaders in the community that step up and connect with these kids has just such tremendous impact.
Tim, what hurdles did you have trying to get the firm to buy into the whole program?
So we were very lucky in that we had a pretty smooth path. I pitched this to our firm person who handles these kinds of initiatives. She was totally on board with it. Dawn Roseman, who has made a point of talking to each of the first sessions of our each year. She talks to our first session kids and says and tells them her story about coming into the firm and not knowing, not having spent time in a law firm, not knowing, you know, what to wear or how to act or who to talk to, and share some of her story about learning those things. We've had great support from firm management, both locally and firm-wide. And one of the things that we've done with our 2 kids that we have at Howard, 2 of my partners in DC, in our DC office, have kind of taken those kids under their wing, and they act as a resource to them. You know, somebody who you know in case something comes up, which for those of us who live in South Bend and have friends who send kids to Notre Dame, St. Mary's, or Holy Cross, you know, that it happens. So we've been able to do that as well. Amy has a hand in budgeting, so that's gone well, and I think it's been well received and encouraged by the firm. And what I would say is, look, it is a couple hours of an afternoon, one time a month. I think we do 8 a year. And anybody, you could do that. And you know enough people, if you've been a lawyer in South Bend for any time at all, you know enough people that can help you, you know, can we stop by your office and talk about what you do? Can you come here and talk to these kids about what you do? And if you're anybody in this room right now, you love talking about what you do and yourself. And so, you know, 2 hours goes by like that. So I think, you know, as the magistrate mentioned, there are a lot of notional barriers to doing what we've done. I'm happy with what we've done and proud of the program that but trust me, this is nothing Herculean. Anybody who cares enough can do this.
We would like to, help you grow the community and help more people in the community belong. So if any of you have any questions of us about how to make things happen, any questions about what we've done, what we plan to do, or how you can do something, and we just explained what we did. What you might do might be something entirely different, but we are in the business of encouraging others, whether it's law firm, bank, hospitals, to do something similar. So if any of you have any questions about anything,
Industry.
questions, comments, concerns?
Let me just say, as one of the more senior members of this group, thank you for this program. This is a fabulous program that I can tell is doing wonderful things. So keep it up, and I would encourage, like you've encouraged everybody on there, get involved.
You know, one of the things that I think we can also, the kids are actually entertaining too. So you know, you gotta get the kick out of it because you learn from them. We had Randy Rampola. They've done a good job. The firm's done a good job of introducing the kids to different areas of practice and even marketing and everything else that goes along with being a lawyer and support staff. But Randy Rampola was there and he was trying to explain bonds.
You know how excited that
Yeah,
is.
so believe it or not, Randy Rampola got a question about bonds. And his description was, he said, well, you know, you all go to school and, you know, you go to this high school and that high school. And so the young lady said, and he said, well, we raise bonds. Bonds are levied to be able to help schools do different things to be able to improve the schools. And the young lady said, hey, we got a hole in our roof over at Club. We got a hole in our roof. Can you help us out? Can we get bonds for that? So the students are very entertaining, and we really do learn a lot from them because over time they get to know. It's not even over time, just about from day one. Because when they sign up, this is something as a matter of fact, we have a bit of a problem. We've had the school corporations providing transportation every year, and then through some glitches, they were not able to provide the transportation. That didn't work out. We got 14 students, and they all get there. We don't even know how they get there, but they get from wherever. We're not asking how they did it. But every Wednesday, they figure out Marcus.
Yeah, so getting here actually, so today, like some of the students that do the program with me, I'm not missing the day. If I can be in a courtroom with a judge and you said I can ask a question, I'm good in there. I rode the bus today to get here, and then I went to the downtown library to you know kind of brush up and make sure I could talk in front of all of you today. And then I walked here, so it's just like finding the opportunity, finding the means to get to A to B. So
when's the last time you walked? When's the last time anybody here walked? You haven't, right? Because I know I haven't, and I know you haven't either. But and my point is, the things that you heard or read, here's a kid, young man, caught the bus, went to the library, and then walked. And the rest of the kids are getting there the same way. The least we can do. I know all of you. You've done pretty well. You got a couple hours and a couple dollars. Try to help. Questions? Comments? 2 questions.
Go ahead, Judge.
Actually, I was just playing with
Oh.
Go ahead, John.
You said, you explained to us how you've done this program, but I think you also said there are a lot of different ways to do it too. And I think Jay Lewis has done something on his own, and if Jay wants to take a minute or so, would you tell us what you've done, Jay?
Jay.
Oh, well, thank you. So our firm did something on a much smaller scale, and first of all, I'm really impressed with everything you've done. I knew a little bit about it, but I'm learning a lot today. Thank you for all you guys are doing. Ours is a much smaller scale, but we have something called a micro internship, where we have high school students come in just for 2 weeks, for 2 hours a day, for each day for 2 weeks. And then we give them a chance to, in the firm, get to know the lawyers and what they're doing and introduce the different areas of practice and things like that. And then we have 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 outings where we go out and meet with Judge Briscoe or meet with Judge Lichty or meet with someone else and take a tour of the county city building and just say, here's the county recorder's office, here's what happens here. And again, just trying to, in a similar way but on a smaller scale, break down some of the barriers to a high school student seeing themselves in a career in the law. And so we really enjoyed working with some of the students, and that's our program.
Thank you. Thank you. Jess.
I know you mentioned that the students in this program are in a CTE program at school. Is that how they get into the program?
yeah, so I have been in the criminal justice CTE program for 2 years now, and it's basically what CTE is. It's career technical education. So it gives you the opportunity to, kind of get some of that hands-on experience. And that's kind of where, my teacher, Miss Gracie, kind of liked the idea of this program because you get that hands-on experience. You get to join legal professionals and see what they do on a day-to-day basis. And kind of like you said, really understand what these places are and what you guys do in there. And it's kind of nice because it's just like, yeah, I would never, because I live a block or 2 away from here, and it's kind of nice. I would never expected that the place that I drive past each day for my trial house such amazing people. So it's really nice. Yeah.
And even though he said he was with the CTE, and that's great. What I want to make sure we understand is that we don't have any barriers. When I call, who should I talk to? I call someone that I knew. I don't even know who it was. I call someone that I knew, like, hey, criminal justice, that kind of stuff. You probably got some kids that are interested in law, and it happened to be CTE. But I didn't try to get too caught up in who's the right person. I called someone that was committed, dedicated, and said, hey, put me in touch with. And I talked to Ms. Bracy, and she got the kids. We don't have anything to do with that. Matter of fact, we told her not to give us some of the kids, didn't we? We said we had a limit of 10. They keep sending us more kids and we keep taking them. So,
Our note for South Bend Community Schools is we need to ramp teachers, because we said limit of 10, and we keep getting 14.
but then we keep saying yes, too. So.
Right, and so we've limited it to seniors, and so we know that if people ask, it's really their only opportunity. And so we have done what we had to do to meet the demand. And it's not just, you know, they get to meet Randy and he puts a really positive spin on Bon Mom, but they meet other people in other practices, and then they meet our non-members and talk about what they do and what kind of opportunities are available to work in an office, even if you don't want to be a lawyer. But you want to be around it, or it's of interest to you. And we want to make sure that kids who are driving past every day and not understanding who we are and what we do, come to understand that, look, they can have a pretty nice life here in town, working in a nice environment with decent people like Amy, and you know. And get along just fine, because I don't think they know that. I mean, it's really a ridiculously low barrier, but it's there. I mean, they just don't know who we are and what we do. And if we're going to be leaders in our community, that shouldn't happen.
One more question there.
Do you also go over the financial aspects of law school? Because it's so expensive that I feel like it's a little bit irresponsible to tell kids, you can go to law school and have all of this without also saying you may end up with $100,000 in debt.
Well, I mean, student loans are discussed, and we go through and talk, like, we've helped people do college applications and essays. We've done FAFSA stuff with folks, and so we have those discussions more one-on-one than in general, to be fair. But we're not pitching any particular law school, and we have people going to different places, and you know, you can get there different ways. And so, I don't, you know, geez, I quail at the notion of being irresponsible, but rest assured you're not the first person to accuse me.
Sounds like you're doing everything.
Right, I mean, you know, we don't candy coat it, but we also talk, look, the way I put it to these students is, I'm like, it's a bet on yourself. I had to borrow money to do that, right? My own story is neither of my parents went to college, so it was all new to us. And so we figured it out, and the way that it made sense to me was, I will take out this loan, and it's a bet on myself. And I gotta be able to make good on it. You know, and so that's, we have those types of discussions. I don't discourage anybody for financial reasons. You know, but we don't candy coat. You know, you got to make a bet on yourself if you're going to try and do this.
And I think introducing them again to the different kind of roles. I mean, we have one month where I talk to them about marketing, our IT guy talks to them about you know, his role in the law firm. Our LAAs, our paralegals, so they know that if law is something that they want to do, but don't necessarily want to go down that path, they can still plug themselves in a different role.
Next month, we're going to talk to some police officers and other court staff personnel, so they get introduced to some of the other fields of law.
Well, and our office manager is somebody who started out as a paralegal, went to law school, practiced for a while, and then decided, I'd really rather not. You know, and so, you know, they get to talk to, they follow that whole trajectory.
Last question, Ms. Amy.
I just want to thank Mark, because you did a fantastic job.
Yes. I think with that, there are other aspects of the program that we need to move forward with, but please talk to any of us about any aspect, how we can help. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. introducing Roxanne Mendez Johnson. She's going to give an introduction to the Indiana State Bar Association's new inclusion guidelines. She's an assistant federal defender for the Northern District of Indiana. She was previously a federal defender in Arizona and New York. She had her own law office in Lake County and was a public defender for state court in Lake County, Arizona, New York. University of Arizona Law School grad from 1999, a member of the ISBA Diversity Committee, and a recipient of the ISBA's Trailblazer Arbiendo Caminos Award in 2019.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and if it's all right with you, I'd like to stand. I don't do well sitting down, so it's a pleasure to be here. And I, as a member of the Diversity Committee of the Indiana State Bar Association, I'm happy to be here. What a wonderful, this is my first opportunity being at this program, and what a beautiful legacy that you all have created to build. And I'm honored to be a part of it, so thank you for that opportunity. And as part of that, the Indiana State Bar Association has done some legwork for everyone and has created a tool. This is a tool for everyone to use. It's available for your use. I just looked it up, and if you go to inbar.org/page/inclusion-guide, you will come up with this handy-dandy inclusion reference guide. What has happened is that folks from the Diversity Committee have gotten together, have met, and have done a lot of work in putting together some reference materials for you, some tools that are available for you in this format if you need them. If you end up with a new colleague, a new client that you would like to make more comfortable, you're just not knowing how to do that. If it's an issue, perhaps they've introduced themselves and they've given their pronouns, and you've never heard that before. And instead of being a deer in the headlights, now you have somewhere to go. This is not provided by your firm. This is not your own personal views or ideas. This is coming from the Indiana State Bar Association. So it gives you a little cover. It gives you somewhere to go if you need it. There are all different areas here. You can look through it. There will be some available for you as you leave, if you'd like them, on the table, just like this. But for example, we have checking your unconscious assumptions. If you're interested in that, you have somewhere to go. When you make a mistake, in general, it's always good to follow the lead of this new individual you're talking to. Take their temperature, see what they're comfortable with. This may be completely foreign. You may not need it. You may dip your toe in the water and then say, well, it's here. If I need it, great. If not, that's fine. But it's just a tool like anything else. You're looking for an attorney for a particular reference area. You're trying to locate a colleague. Well, now you have an inclusion guide in your arsenal here to help you in your practice, in your everyday practice. That's pretty much what I wanted to do for you all, to let you know it exists. It's here. It touches on all different aspects of personhood. There's a list, there's an index at the beginning. Feel free to, you can use it however you'd like. Some people sit down and read it beginning to end. Others just go as needed. Maybe you'll never need it in the rest of your career. I think you might, though, these days. It will help, hopefully, be available for you to be ready if needed, and to improve your practice and give all to your new client and your new relationship. I think it's just nice. Sometimes people are looking for that little bit of connection. And if you can be that person to bring that connection to your work, people remember that. So Any questions at all? Any questions regarding this guide, how it came about? Anyone have the opportunity, you know, I could have used that last week. Anything like that? Do you have a comment, sir?
Well, yesterday, my partners, Dick Nussbaum and Kevin Warren, we did a presentation for a client on this very topic.
Oh, wonderful.
Yesterday. It was went very well. And, you know, I was telling Dick, I said, did you use her manual that she's referring to yesterday to do the presentation? And he said, probably I should have.
Make no mistake, this is not mine. I did not. There's lots and lots of attorneys putting a lot of time and effort into this guide, which makes it nice. You've got different perspectives.
It was very good yesterday, and it was very helpful for everybody that was part of the presentation. And I would encourage everybody to read what you're referring to.
Excellent.
It was very good.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing that. Very, very appreciative. Anyone else have an experience where, gosh, that would have been helpful? Different folks, gosh, that's what's so hard sometimes is, you know, we go with our own experiences. Well, if someone else has a completely different experience, then what? How do we address them? We want to make them comfortable. So this gives ideas and different reference points. You could try this, you could try that. And, you know, if you fall down, well, at least you had something to begin with, and you put it in effort, and I think people will see that. Any other questions? That's it. Pleasure being here. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, and finally, we are having a town hall discussion with Honorable David Lichty. He is the judge of the U.S. District, Northern District, appointed by President Trump in 2019. He received his law degree from IU Law School in 1999. He then joined Barnes & Thornburg and then did a 2-year clerkship with Judge Robert Miller before returning to Barnes & Thornburg. He has served on the Federal Local Rules Advisory Committee and is an adjunct professor at Notre Dame Law School since 2017 in products liability. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you.
She's a judge of the Northern District of Indiana, appointed by President Biden in 2024. She received her law degree from Notre Dame in 2006. She was previously an attorney at Barnes & Thornburg, corporate counsel for South Bend under Pete Buttigieg, first counsel at St. Mary's College, magistrate judge for the St. Joseph Circuit Court, appointed to the St. Joseph Superior Court judge by Governor Holcomb, appointed to the judge of the Commercial Court. She serves on the ISBA Leadership Development Academy, Class 2, and has numerous, and I know there must be numerous because they're not down here, numerous ISBA and state legal committees and roles. So welcome, Judge Bristol. And another young presenter, we have Savannah Gutierrez. She is an attorney at May Oberfeld-Lorber. She graduated from IU McKinney Law School in 2023. She's a member of the St. Joseph County Bar Association, and she's the new lawyer committee chair. Apparently her dad was visiting today, so she said she would moderate, but only if her dad attended. So welcome, Dad. I'm sure this is very interesting. And Judges Lichty and Bristow were only willing to serve on this since Savannah was the moderator. So she's a key part of this presentation. Thank you.
Someone asked me to move this podium, so bear with me here.
Oh no.
Okay.
Do you blame Joe Bullinghammer?
It is all me.
He tried to move it.
I broke it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to
to our final conversation for the Bill Stanley Seminar on Civility and Professionalism. My name is Savannah Gutierrez, and I have the privilege of serving as moderator for this town hall discussion. I did not have the privilege of knowing Bill Stanley, but thank you to the Stanley family and Kelly and Dick Esbaum as well for continuing this legacy. And even though I have not met Bill, I can feel him in this room right now, so I'm excited for this next conversation that we are going to have. As Kelly mentioned, this is a town hall discussion, so we may have time for a formal question and answer at the end, but I do encourage you to raise your hand throughout, and I will do my best to call on you, and we can have those conversations together. Judge Briscoe, Judge Lakey, thank you so much for your time today. We're going to be talking about civility, professionalism, and belonging. And Judge Briscoe, I'd love to get started with you. Kelly listed your incredible resume. You've had an incredible career trajectory. Can you talk about how civility and professionalism have really led you to where you are today and how it has impacted your career?
Well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to be here with you all. Going through the winding road of my path from working in private practice and then city government to higher education and state court and federal court, I've had the really good fortune of being surrounded by local attorneys who have modeled civility and professionalism and have been really good mentors of mine. I look around the room and I see Michael Knight and Laura and Minister Damage and Dick Esbaum and Joe, and it's that has helped me build a foundation to take those leaps of faith and applying for roles and not being afraid to reach out for help and for advice. On a practical note, however, when you're filling out the Senate Judiciary questionnaire for the background check, they do ask for you to list folks that you have interacted with and judges you've appeared in front of and attorneys who served as opposing counsel, and they don't just end with that list. They didn't go on and they call others. And so I think having modeled civility and professionalism throughout my career helped when folks were able to say, yeah, no, she's not a jerk. I may not agree with her, but she's pretty civil, and I think she's competent to do the job. So on a practical note, that has helped me.
That's wonderful. Judge, did you have anything to add in how civility and professionalism have helped you?
Certainly, and first let me say too, I'm very thankful to be here, very honored to be a part of this. There are lots of stories I could tell. I want to start with Bill Stanley's story. I knew Bill when I was very young as a lawyer. I had just practiced a couple years, now clerking for Judge Miller, and Bill Stanley would come in and handle criminal defense cases. I hope Bill won't roll over by me saying this, but he wasn't typically hired to get an acquittal. In fact, one of his great skills was working with the defendant, then working with the prosecutor, and then working, of course, with the court at sentencing. And it was in part his manner, his civility, his smart certainly, but the way that he carried himself and comported himself with others that often got him the reputation of getting some of the best plea deals around. I mean, people would ask, well, how did Bill get that plea deal out of this case? I don't think Bill did that for that purpose. He was just who he was, right? He's just who he was. But that was a sort of a corollary effect. Now, as it concerns me, I was a nobody. I was a greenhorn. Now learning under what I consider one of the best judges around, and Bill had no reason to give me any acknowledgement or quarter, but he always did. He was always very kind to me. Always asked about how I was doing, and that carried on even after I left the clerkship. One of my fondest memories is running into Bill on the sidewalk, and Bill and I would immediately have a conversation about family, the practice, how was my practice going, and we would talk about his family too. And I just always appreciated that about Bill. When we think about belonging, Bill just sort of had a natural knack at doing that very thing. I'll take a cue here from Judge Briscoe, but as I look around the room too, there's many individuals I could probably stop at far more than I'm going to, but I see Andy Spalding over here. You know, we share a bond through the Boys and Girls Club. I always have a great conversation with Andy whenever I see him. Jim Keel's sitting right there. He's a DePaul grad, and despite that, I'm a Wabash grad. Despite that, we always have a great conversation together, and we have a sort of a special bond. Richard is always kind and gentlemanly to me. Joe Mary has taught me more about arbitration and mediation than I could ever forget. Jay Lewis was a mentor when I was a young lawyer. They're doing a great thing with this program that he described. In fact, one of the students that his firm he supervised is now a student in my product liability class at the University of Notre Dame Law School. So she's doing great things. I see Dick Nussbaum, and we were co-counsel in cases together. He always showed me great professional kindness. I remember an instance in which I was walking down the street just by happenstance, and Dick pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, you like baseball, don't you?" I said, "Not baseball." "You know I do, right?" And he popped up the trunk of his car, and he had a whole bag of baseballs in his trunk. And I forget, it was something to do with the bar association or something. I can't exactly remember exactly what was on the baseball. But Dick tossed me a baseball, and he said, "Here, take that." Shannon, every time I see Shannon back there, you know, he's always trying to up my game in terms of style. I mean, the guy dresses like nobody else I've ever seen. You know, Judge Steele, I see her, she gives me a hard time. Right? That's all in the spirit of Bill Stanley. There's professional kindnesses there, right? There are community and charitable based kindnesses there, and then there are just personal kindnesses there. And I think that makes our community, our bar in particular, a very special one. And if we can continue that tradition in the light of Bill Stanley, I think that's a very powerful thing.
Judge, like as you're looking around the room, I mean, many of those individuals, I mean, they're younger than you, they're older than you, they're your age, but they're all mentors. And I think for some of us, how do we make that first step? If we're looking for a mentor, or if we're looking for someone who we want to get to know, whether it's a judge, a local practitioner, someone in our community who we've either met once or twice or just never met before, do you all have any advice to those individuals on how to take that step and encourage them to not be worried about inconveniencing or burdening that other individual?
I think everyone's instinct in the first instance is to want to be helpful, right? And you can approach people in that vein. And if for some reason there's an unusual reaction to that, in other words, the instinct isn't that, well, that person was never going to help you in the first place. But I think as a general rule, everyone wants to be helpful. And if people understand that, then I think it tends to, you know, welcome that introduction. Another story, if I might, this just happened today at lunch. I was at Java. I go to Java all the time for lunch, it's no secret. And I was sitting there waiting on my food, and this young man came up to me, and he says, "Are you Mr. Leachteeth?" I said, "I'm Mr. Leachteeth, yes." Just call me Damon. And he said, he was so apologetic. "I'm so sorry for just coming up to you out of the blue." I said, "No, it's quite all right." I said, "You know, I'm Damon Leachteeth, nice to meet you. Who are you?" And he gave me his name. And he says, "The person who cuts my hair has told me a little bit about you, and happens to be the same person that cuts my hair, for what it's worth." And I said, "Oh yeah, Desiree, yes, I know Desiree." And he says, "Well, Desiree's been telling me about you and wanted to make the connection because I'm really interested in law school." I said, "Well, tell me about yourself. What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm at IUSB, I'm a junior, I'm studying this." And I said, "Okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? You know, what's your plans next?" He mentioned that he was working with Lee & Zalis, I think now, doing some legal assistant work just to cut his teeth and try to be exposed to the area of law. But it was really, I give him all the credit, right? He got this tip from Desiree. He did a little reading on me, figured out, got in my portrait, so he just, out of the blue, sees me in Java. He said, "I think that's that guy." And he approaches me, right? And so now we build a connection. And I told him, hey, look, if there's something I can do as you progress down the road, I'm at your convenience. But I think just, you know, recognizing that in the first instance, I think people are predisposed to helps to break down that concern that I'm not doing the right thing here in approaching someone.
Judge Briscoe, what did those mentors that you mentioned do to make you feel like you belonged in the profession and in this amazing legal community?
Well, since Judge Lichty shared a Dick Nussbaum story, I'll share one too. So when I transitioned from being in private practice to go into city government, you know, I got a phone call from Dick Nussbaum. I had never met Dick before, but he took the initiative to call and introduce himself and say, hey, I was corporation counsel, and do you want us to go to CJ's and I can tell you about my time as corporation counsel, and I'm always a resource here for you, just to shoot the breeze. And that was so helpful that someone said, hey, look, let's just have a fellowship over lunch, a bite to eat, and conversation. Because that would be really hard for me as a new person to just pick up the phone and Dick Nussbaum, who I knew had served for, its corporation at one time. And the other thing that mentors have done for me, or just other members of the bar, is introduce me to other lawyers in the community. I am an introvert by nature, and while I like to be social, I am rather shy to sort of want to invite myself to something. And from Bruce Bancroft, he learned that I enjoyed the symphony. And he said, hey, I have symphony tickets, and I know there's other lawyers in town that also like to go to the symphony. Would you and your husband like to join us? And being new to the area and not having a network of my own, the fact that other leaders in the community were open to connecting to other people, that really meant a lot. And so I tried to pass that along now that I guess I'm a senior now, to say, hey, there's a lawyer in town. I'd be more than happy to meet you for lunch and to just share a common interest.
And, Dick obviously didn't have to do that, but as Magistrate Gamage was sharing earlier, he was willing, he was intentional, and he made a sacrifice of taking time out of his day. And aren't you glad you picked up the phone? And it's one of those instances where one little phone call can mean so much. Who would have known years down the road that you'd be sharing that story, and you didn't even know that meant that much to him. So it's really incredible. And you all both lead, high-powered courtrooms, big dockets, but you're with attorneys every day. What do you all do to encourage civility amongst counsel in your courtrooms?
First, be a model of it myself. I address everyone by Mr. or Ms. I'm on time. I've heard some jokes that say, well, court can't start until the judge gets there. Well, no, it's like if I said court starts at 9:30, then I'm on the bench at 9:30. If I'm expecting that of you all, then I need to be there. And I've heard Justice David, he's used this analogy of saying, judges, we are sort of like thermostats, right? And so when you see the temperature going up in the courtroom, you can either crank it up or you can turn it down. And so for me, I'm always going to make sure that we keep a cool, a very pleasant, comfortable temperature in the courtroom. And I don't even have a gavel because I don't need it. It's just, okay, counsel, let's move on to the next issue here, et cetera. So I think by setting the tone in court that professionalism is expected, civility is expected, being prepared, if I'm prepared, that of course I should expect for you all to be prepared. That certainly helps. Also, in just making sure the little things, I want to make sure that I know how to pronounce someone's name. I mean, that's a small thing to do, but before we get on the record, showing that common courtesy of treating the parties and the attorneys with that level of just simple respect, I think goes a long way.
Judge?
Briscoe's comment about the gavel, DeMarcus and his colleagues were in the courtroom yesterday, and they're all on the bench, and I told them, well, why don't you get some individual shots? And they said, hey, does anyone have a gavel? And I said, well, I know there's a gavel somewhere around here, but I don't know where it is, because I don't use one either. Deandra could, she dug one up, so I won't take a picture. But I think that's reflective of the tradition that exists in our courts, both federal and state. What do we have to do in order to maintain that tradition? Keep that standard of excellence here, right? We are, in some ways, as all the lawyers are who appear in the courtroom, custodians, keepers of that tradition. And I think I see such excellent lawyers on both sides of the aisle, criminal and civil, that for me, just always keeping that standard of excellence in the courtroom, that often is as little as it needs to be done, because the lawyer will meet that. Right? They will go through that. They will chase that standard. They will hit that standard. When those rare moments come up where emotions or other things sort of tend to get in the way, a subtle reminder is all that really is needed, and that's rare in my experience. I think acknowledging people, remembering that what we do is a human endeavor, is very, very important. Take the most serious thing that we do as judges in federal court, and we're going through a criminal proceeding, particularly up to sentencing. These crimes could be very, very serious, but that individual still deserves respect. And it's knowing how to pronounce their name, absolutely. That's true for lawyers, parties, even jurors. It's also, and I know Judge Briscoe carries on the same tradition, treating them with the utmost humanity as much as we can muster, even when we are at the same time sharing hard truths about their conduct and the things that we have to do that are very, very serious. I've seen, heard, for instance, there was an individual criminal defendant who had choice words in another courtroom, and the marshals are concerned about how he will comport himself in our courtroom. And yeah, we come prepared to deal with that scenario. But what I have found is in treating that person with respect, with listening to that individual, and making sure that they feel like they have been heard and treated with respect, it tends to neutralize that emotion for as heavy as a proceeding sometimes we have to handle. So there are lots of ways, other ways that we can do that too, but I think just remember that this is a human endeavor is very important.
What advice would you all give to the lawyer sitting in this room who has felt like they don't belong, or is feeling like they don't belong, or is trying to find their way?
Well, I would encourage you to focus on what we all have in common, right? We're all lawyers. We've all had this shared experience of having taken the LSAT, gone to law school, and passing the bar. And so you do belong because you've earned the right to be here. I would also encourage you that, I'll speak for myself, I've had imposter syndrome before, right? And so you look around the room and it's like, oh gosh, people look at me. But I focus on the fact that, hey, I belong here. I'm a lawyer just like they are. And so there is a group for everyone. And I immersed myself in the Indiana State Bar Association as a way to try to connect with other lawyers throughout the state, and have found great connections through that. And yes, it does take a haul to drive to Indianapolis, but I can't remember, Tim Mayer say it, betting on yourself, it's investing in yourself too. And so sometimes you have to sacrifice the time away from the billable hours and spending the money with gas to get there. But you can always find belonging somewhere. And I'm always here as well. So if you feel like you don't belong, I'm always happy to chat with you. You can go to Java Cafe.
Judge Lefty?
I think you can find belonging in others. What do I mean by that? I mean, suppose I don't know how I belong. I don't know how I fit into this. I think making that effort to make sure that others belong, and in that effort, I think you're going to find that you create your own belonging. You know, what Tim, Amy, and Judge Gamage are doing in their program, what Jay's doing in their program, I think that's an illustration of what I'm trying to describe. You know, Chief Justice Rush has been talking about our dearth of lawyers, young lawyers, particularly in the rural areas. We're not exactly the most rural area, I understand, but there's still a challenge of making sure that, as excellent as you all are, that we're bringing up new lawyers that are going to carry on that same tradition. And how do we go about doing that? Well, these programs help, right? They create belonging, not just in terms of exposing them to careers and opportunities, but in this area, in this community. Andy and I serve on the Boys and Girls Club together. And a couple years ago, the clerks and I, law clerks and I, created a mock trial program for 3rd and 4th grade Boys and Girls Club kids. And the clerks and I go over and we do it once a week. It's a 5-week program. And we go over and we have this sort of curriculum where we teach them a little bit about trial law. And we have one simple concept that we're trying to teach them each day that we go. It culminates in this mock trial program where the 3 pigs and the big bad wolf's on trial, and they all come, here they come into the federal courtroom. Now, before they do all this, they meet with the CSOs, the marshals, the AOSAs, the federal defenders, and then they, of course, come into my courtroom. And my sister, who teaches music at St. Joe, lends to me all these props and costumes, and they all get dressed up. So they got top hats on, jackets, nose. The deputy clerk the last time had these fancy butterfly wings. I'm not sure why that was. But they, you know, they're like, okay, we're doing a dress rehearsal here. And I've got 3 judges. I've got these oversized black T-shirts that I give the 3 judges, and they get up on the bench and they're doing their thing. We have a whole script, and we go through this mock trial program. And it's so much fun to watch these young kids, 3rd and 4th graders, participate in that. And what you start to see very early on is a little bit of a dream, right? As an example, the young man that had the butterfly wings, he was playing Deandra's role as deputy clerk, as a courtroom deputy. And in the middle of the trial, this was a couple years ago, he says to me, because they've done a tour of the courtroom, he says, now, the courtroom deputy has an office, right? I said, oh yeah, Deandra has an office. So if I'm in this role, I have an office. Yeah. Well, I'd like to go to my office after this is all over. I said, well, we've got pizza and cookies afterwards. But you know, he's just embracing it, right? And you start to see just this little spark, just this little dream. And they've been exposed to the institution that's been, you know, the austerity that's been eroded a little bit. They've been exposed to the professions that they might not otherwise dream about, and now they've been engaged. And then they grow up to people like this young man here, Marcus, you know, and they get a little older, and they eventually dream on into law school, and hopefully they remember this community as one that they want to belong in. I think this takes those little small things that we started.
You know, Judge Lindy, you mentioned one thing that we can do is make others feel like they belong in. All the amazing Bar Association events that go on in this community, I always look forward to seeing faces that I don't get to see as frequently, and it's just so wonderful to look around this room and see those people that I do look forward to seeing. I see Doug in the back. I always look forward to seeing Doug, Judge Broden, Daniel as well. You know, those are people that I don't interact with on my daily basis, but I just so look forward to those, and I think that's what you're hitting on too, is when you get to see those people, it makes you feel like you belong as well, because you can tell that they're looking forward to seeing you as well. How else would you encourage our community? You know, we're champions for our clients, we're champions for our firms. How would you encourage others to be champions for others in the community and in the profession?
I mean, when you hear of a big win, or you hear of someone receiving an award, I mean, sending a note, sending a text, an email, it takes a little bit of time, but it goes such a long way to let someone know that you're thinking of them, that the community is proud of them. Even if you're just the only person that reached out, they still would be like, oh, someone reached that. We're so busy in today's world, and going across the street from this courthouse to the next, just taking the time to say hello, not being so busy. And those are some of the things that we can just do on a daily basis that don't take too much of the time to help increase our community in lots of ways.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I have a lot to add. I think it was a good punchline to this. I did see this article in Rush Estide today just by happenstance, and the lead article is Women in the Law. In an age of tectonic shifts, what can we do to propel everyone to the next level? And I thought, oh, that's right, apropos for what we are talking about today. And you go and you start to read in here, and part 2 of the article is about belonging. And what can lawyers do to help us all feel like we belong? I think small things to big things. There's lots of things people can do to help us all be part of that community. So Judge Briscoe puts a very good addition to that.
Thank you. I think we have a couple minutes for question and answer. If anyone would like to add anything or make a comment or share a story or ask a question. Rich.
I'm struck, as probably some of the older members are, by how nice the judges are these days. And I will share my introduction to the courtroom, which some of the older people have heard, but I'll just contrast it with the presentation you've made. I appeared before a man who looked like God in the St. Joseph Circuit Court, the Honorable John Montgomery. And it was the first time I was in the courtroom. The firm sent me over on a lazy lawyer motion. It was at the end of John's 9 o'clock hearing, where he dealt with very many miscellaneous matters. And so I won't name the other lawyer who was on the other side. My first time, no one from the firm took me over. So I stood in that circuit courtroom, which we've all been in, and he said, all right, what the hell is next? And then I knew right away that maybe this wasn't law school and not trial. So I walked up to him in front of the bench with the other lawyer, and I said, Your Honor, and I put my hand on his bench. I won't quote him exactly, but he said, take your blank hand off that bench and never touch it again as long as you live. I never did. But afterwards, we became close friends. But there was almost a rite of passage for young lawyers approaching a judge. First time, second time. I'm just commenting that it seems to me the judiciary has changed in its approach. And perhaps that has raised the civility and professionalism. We're blessed with a great bar. We all know that. Those of us who have been lucky enough to have been around for a while have great respect for everyone. but I think the way the judges conduct themselves now, and John wasn't the only one, I can say, that felt like they had to break in the young lawyer. And I don't detect that anymore. Is that a fair statement?
Well, no one approaches the bench anymore since COVID. We've done away with that risk. Thanks to the pandemic. There are silver linings.
I shared a story with Judge Lindsay to where I said, you know, when I joined the bench, what kind of judge do I want to be, right? How do I want to be, what do I want to be known as? I want to be known as competent, fair, and decisive. When people see that cases have been assigned to my docket, I don't want them to get a pit in their stomach. I want them to say, all right, I know I have to bring my game because she has read everything, and I know she's going to be fair to me. Because it's not just I'm not representing myself as Crystal Briscoe on the bench. I'm representing justice, the rule of law. And if we are going to have respect for the rule of law and institutions, then I find it imperative that I respect it by comporting myself a certain way. But I did have someone touch my bench. It was a pro se litigant when I was in circuit court, and she didn't have a pen, and she leaned over and she took the pen from my bench, and I didn't know what quite to make of that. So I let her write it, and I thought, okay, don't embarrass her, she's emotional. I need to make sure I get my pen. It's one of my favorite pens. So I let her have, and then all of a sudden, you know, she walks out of the courthouse with my pen. So I sent one of the deputies.
I had a similar experience as Rich did. In 1993, Tom hired me, and we were in front of Judge Crone in the middle of a jury trial, and he calls us all up there. And I put my hand on the bench. I heard one F-bomb for sure. I looked at Tom, and I'm trying to figure out what to do or say. He didn't train me not to do that. I've never done it since.
I guess a question over here.
My only comment was to say the butterfly story just made me want to, add that to my mock trial list.
Absolutely. DeMarcus and friends, his classmates were, we took them into chambers, or shown chambers yesterday as well. And I have photographs that line the hallway. It's a history of chambers, and it's an homage really to my clerks and my staff and the things that we've done over the years, and both serious things that we've done in chambers by way of our professional work, but also some fun things that we've done together as various clerks have been with me in various teams, and whether that's axe throwing or doing an escape room together, we've done a lot of different things. But the people who come and visit the courtroom and chambers, whether that's Jay's group or Tim, Amy, Judge Damage's group, or the Boys and Girls Club, or whoever they are, I always love to get photographs of them too. And they go in the conference room. And so yesterday, DeMarcus and his classmates were in there checking out all the photographs, and I said, you guys will be in there too. In fact, if you look at that one photograph, that's last year's group. And I think Marcus was actually over there saying, oh, I know so-and-so, and I know so-and-so, right? They become part of that history and tradition too. I think that's very important. I said to them all, look, if there's anything that I can do for you in the future, you let me know. DeMarcus was Johnny on the spot. How about a job? Always a thinking that. And I said, I tell you what, you get through school, go to law school, graduate, send me your CV and we'll talk. So that offer still stands.
Other questions, comments?
I'll say just that I think we owe gratitude to the more senior members of the bar. I'm starting to become a more senior member of the bar now, but for setting the tone and for passing that on. And I recall, for example, trying a case a few years back with Jim Rose, and I was lucky to have some good facts, and so we prevailed. But after that, I got a handwritten note from Jim that said, "Good job. You tried to find a case." And you didn't have to do that, but it meant a lot to me, and that's the kind of spirit that we're lucky in our bar association to have among the senior members of the bar. So.
He's right about that. I had the same experience with Canopa. I had a case where I was sure that I was going to have a big recovery, went to mediation, I turned it down, went to trial, defense verdict, and about 2 or 3 days later, I got a very good personal note from Bob Canopa.
Joe?
So that, we'll end it here, but that reminds me when Judge Briscoe was at Barnes and Thornburg, and I was still at Barnes and Thornburg. Judge Briscoe, you heard, was in the second leadership development class. B&T didn't put her in that. I got a call, and I don't remember if it was from Bill Jonas or Mitch Eppenheimer. The two of them had talked and said,
it was both of us.
They said, we need somebody from St. Joe County. We want them in this program. Can we ask Crystal? And the big thing to me was it wasn't somebody working with her. So when you get those comments from lawyers outside your firm, I think that's what makes you feel like you belong to the bar. And that, because inside the firm, everybody's supposed to make you good. But when you get that from the outside, you realize people are seeing me and they think I belong here, they think I'm a part of this, and you become more involved, I think. But, so Crystal, or Judge Briscoe, you can end this on putting a plug in for the ISBA's leadership development.
Well, yeah, the ISBA Leadership Development Academy, I mean, there's several participants in this group, and it really, and Savannah, you should talk more about it, but...
Oh, I haven't done it.
You haven't done it?
I can do it.
We'll get you to do it. So it's an opportunity for lawyers. I think you have to be practicing 6 years or less.
5 to 15 years.
Thank you, 5 to 15 years. And there's lawyers from all across the state that participate in it. And you meet, I don't know, once a month. It's been a long time, but you go to different areas, and there's always a member of the Indiana Supreme Court that is at every session. And I participated in it, it was Justice David. There's members from the Court of Appeals, the Southern District of Indiana, Judge Baker also participated in it. And it's really about leadership lessons, community building lessons, and things that you can bring back to your local bar. And so while you're connecting with lawyers from all across the state, you're bringing things that are coming for your community. And the people that I met through that are lifelong friends of mine. Several of you went to my investiture. Justice David was the MC for that event, and it was because of the connection that I made to him and his wife, Catherine Foley, during that program. So I encourage you, if you are more senior than 15 years and you can't participate in it, encourage the younger lawyers that you know to participate in it, because it's going to be beneficial for them, it's going to be beneficial for the local bar and the state bar as a whole.
Judge Briscoe, Judge Lichty, thank you so much for your time. That is dedicated to honoring Bill Stanley's legacy through civility, professionalism, and belonging. So we thank you very much for that.
Remember, we're having a reception out in the rotunda, I guess. And before we go, if you see Kenny from the History Museum or Becca from Cafe or Navarre Catering, they deserve a huge thanks. You need to understand, yesterday morning at 10 o'clock, I learned that I gave them the wrong date. I know, this was yesterday. And they called me when I was with Jay Lewis. They quickly, I guess, pivoted They got it done, so we still have a great performance and a great reception. So thank them.